Hi, and thanks for joining us on this most interesting topic of what is self grasping. But before we get started, let's just take a moment just to relax our bodies and minds. Let's close your eyes, settle yourself into a nice, comfortable position. Take three really good breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then start to become aware of how the body starts to settle in and become more relaxed and have less tension, but the mind also starts to settle. When the mind also, the thoughts start to reduce. And that opens up space for our discussion tonight. Opens up space to start taking in information that we can start contemplating, right? That we can start evaluating and analyzing, and hopefully we can find something meaningful and beneficial within this discussion tonight. So thank you, and thanks for joining. And I want to explore a topic that we've been also discussing for the last month, which was Lion's Gate, this portal, this gate that opens up and allows this energy to start flowing in of compassion and love and so forth. And I've always asked myself, what are these gates, right? And if this gate, this portal that is available in this month's energy is opening, why do I still have difficulties feeling that those expressions that are available? Why do I still have difficulties getting through that portal and experiencing what energies that are available? And this is really every month through all the new moons and full moons, are portals opening, there are gates opening, there are walls coming down, there are energies that are available. But why do I still find myself struggling, right? Do I have my own gates? Do I have my own walls? And let's explore tonight. And I invite everybody to really start contemplating these topics is, what is this gate that I find myself, that I have, that I need to walk through? Where did this gate come from, right? How did it get built? Or the walls around me? How did these walls get built? How did I become so at times disconnected? How do I feel sometimes such separateness from others, from nature, right? Why can't I stay connected? Why can't I find pure everlasting happiness? Why can't I stay within a compassionate, loving mind? Why do I go down these other paths? And what these other paths that I'm going down, is that's what's creating these gates and walls, right? So if I have this energetic Lion's Gate naturally opening this month, why am I not through it? Do I have other gates that I have to get through? Do I have to open up? Do I have to take down other walls for me to really experience this wonderful energy that's available? And the answer is yes. Even though there's these portals that are opening all the time for us, um, those portals won't be accessible to us unless we've opened up our own gates and taken down our own walls. So let's explore, what are these gates? What are these walls? Where do they come from? Right? It's easy to say that I'm feeling disconnected, but why? Right? And we can have a beneficial thought that I've been creating these imaginary walls, gates, not only in this lifetime, and we're going to talk about what actually creates them, but also throughout all my other lifetimes, right? That I've been building brick by brick by brick, or piece by piece by piece, these energies of separation. And I've been doing it completely unconscious, thinking that I'm doing the best for others and myself. But the best that I'm doing for myself and others has a lot to do with self grasping and self cherishing. And in Kabbalistic terms, over 5,000 years ago, they've been teaching that we have this ego, and we grasp on this ego, and we cherish this ego, right? 2,600 years, the Buddha taught about self-grasping, self-cherishing, right? About 100 years ago, Carl Jung talked about the ego and the grasping of our ego, right? So these are things that have been taught for thousands and thousands of years, but yet I still find myself probably more worse off today than I was 1,000 years ago. We are in more degenerate times today. Things are much less spiritual today. We're less connected today. We have more separation today than unity and oneness. But why? And what am I doing to create that? Well, this term of self-grasping is that I'm grasping on an I so tightly, and then I cherish this I, right? I'm grasping on an I. First of all, an I that truly doesn't really exist because it's a perceived I. And where did this perceived I, for myself, David, this I that I see in the morning every day, this perceived I, where did it come from? Well, I know my perceived I has evolved and changed because as a small child, it's different than what it was today. But as a child, I started developing through my grasping and cherishing. And, especially at that time, thinking that I was the center of the universe. I am the center of the universe. And what's most important is important to me. What makes me happy, right? It's all about me, and I, right? And then we develop that I, that perceived I, as we become an adolescent and a teenager, and then in my 20s and my 30s, my 40s, and I literally can go back through my lifetime and see how this perceived I has changed and see how it's evolved. But I can also, through the work with Ali, go back through other lifetimes and see all these perceived I's. And all those perceived I's has created my perceived I today. And this perceived I that I have, I grasp on it. And then I cherish it because I think it's going to make myself and others happy. I think it's going to reduce my suffering, but I just don't know that I'm going about it the wrong way. So what is this I? What is this perceived I? Well, we can take a look and we can meditate and we can contemplate on times when this I was very intense, right? Now, it's happening thousands and thousands and thousands of times a day. My mind is grasping and cherishing on this I. We just don't recognize it yet. And part of our work and effort that we can put in now is to start recognizing this I, because it will change the way you feel, the way you think. It will change your happiness, your peacefulness, being more calm. It will help you enter those portals and gates like Lionsgate that has opened up this month. This is how we start to manifest. But how do we see, what is this I, right? Well, a very intense I that we've all experienced throughout this lifetime, in multiple lifetimes, is that feeling when we're embarrassed, right? How many times we can think about a time where I was feeling really embarrassed, right? I got up in front of a stage of people to talk, and I said the wrong things and didn't come out the way that I intended, and people were laughing, and I became embarrassed. That feeling, poor me, my I, the embarrassedness is my I. Right? Or at a moment at a time that I became extremely scared. And I was so scared, it produced and projected me into the fight or flight syndrome. That feeling of fight or flight is my I. That's my I. Right? Or jealousy. When I become so jealous of someone else's wealth or of my girlfriend leaving me for someone else, that I that comes out at that moment, that's the perceived I. And as time in our next month or two, we'll keep digging deeper into the I, and we'll realize that that I does not exist in the way I perceive it to exist. And when I can start now recognizing that this I comes about, and it comes about all the time, and a little bit less intense, a little bit less extreme, is a time where I think I'm right, or I know, right? I know why the government's doing this, and I know why this politician's doing that, and I know, and I know, and I know, and I'm right, right? And you can't tell me anything different. And I hold and I grasp onto that feeling of rightness, knowingness, when eventually in reality, we're only assuming. But the intensity to hold to the rightness, the knowingness, is my I that I'm grasping on. And then once I grasp on it, I need to cherish it because I value it more than anything else. Right? We're not going to go into deeply in this conversation, but we're going to eventually talk about also our body. We cherish our body more than any other object in the world. We may not be conscious of it yet, but we do more for our bodies. We think more about our bodies, that our health and our happiness is based on our body. And it's not. Yes, our health is, but not our happiness. But yet we cherish it. And we grasp on it. It's this feeling of grasping tightly onto this thought of, I'm right. The scaredness, the jealousy, the embarrassment, the anger that arises. This self-grasping has kept me locked from lifetime to lifetime in this cyclical life. This self-grasping, it's what keeps me from getting through these portals, these gates, or taking down the walls. You got to realize the walls that I have built, not have I built in this lifetime, I have put on brick by brick by brick on multiple millions of lifetimes. But now's the time we can have the tools because these portals are open. It's allowing us to have a little bit more of an openness. The veils are thinning a little bit to a point where we now can take a look deeply what's created my walls and my gates to where I am not able to enter in these other realms. They're in these other time frames to where I can experience everlasting happiness and more liberation. That's keeping me locked into this cyclical life of birth, aging, sickness, and death over and over and over again without this true feeling of happiness. We all know we all want to be happy and free from suffering. But why can't I always be happy? And why can't I find world free from suffering? It's because I'm grasping. I'm living in a realm, a form realm, a desire realm that's here to be able to teach me because it's a form realm and not a formless realm, because it's a desired realm, the things that are so important to my desires and my wants in life that I grasp. And what happens is it creates all these delusional states of minds. There are thousands and thousands. Buddha said there was 84,000 delusional states of mind. And you can break those 84,000 delusional states of minds down to three primary delusional states of minds: attachment, anger, and ignorance. And we know in this desired form realm that my attachments are through the roof, right? And we really start taking a look, and I want to explore these more in upcoming sessions, taking a look at what these attachments are, because they create all my anger. Without attachments, can you ever get angry again? Could you have anger without attachments? No. But with attachments, I find myself getting discontented, dissatisfied, and anger all the time. And there's such a fine line between attachment and love. I think I'm doing things out of love. I think I love, but it's really an attachment. That's based on my grasping on my I and self-cherishing. My anger, my discontent, my dissatisfaction comes from grasping, not wanting things the way they are, wanting things to be different than they arise. Because I grasp on what I think. I want to move from the present moment into a different moment. I don't allow the moment to arise. So I grasp on it. And then the ignorance of not being able to see things how they truly do exist. Right? Those are the three main delusional states of minds. And from those delusional states of minds, I grasp. And the interesting thing on this path, and if you stay with me and apply the effort and the awareness, and you start to recognize your grasping, and you start to recognize what self-cherishing is. And if you're anything like me, when I went down this path years ago, and I started having an awareness and a consciousness of self-grasping, and then I kept self-grasping, and I still self-grasp. But at one time, I can remember being so disgusted. I know better, but my mind still does it because my mind controls me until I can start controlling my mind through meditation. My mind is controlling me. I'm at the mercy of my mind. And our practice is called a Sanskrit term, a Tibetan term called Lojong. Lojong is a training of the mind. We want to retrain our mind. And one of those things, the most important thing I can do out of all these teachings, the most important thing that I can do is start to recognize my self-grasping. Start to recognize this I that I think exists. Start to have a consciousness that it doesn't really exist in the way that it appears. And then from that grasping, I cherish it. I have a thought. I hold tightly to that thought. And then I start telling the story over and over and over and over again. And I cherish it. And that's through my anger and through my attachments. And I really would like to keep exploring and contemplating and going deeper into the self-grasping and self-cherishing. But let's go ahead and do a meditation that I hope that you can put into your own experience and start to spend time contemplating self-grasping. And if you can take this meditation and do it whether formally sitting down or walking or before you rise out of bed or before you go to sleep, start bringing it in your mind and start to recognize the self-grasping. Then you'll start to reducing some of those minds. And just the mere reduction, the awareness, the recognizing of the grasping brings peace. It brings a calmness. And then that will give you faith to keep the practice, to keep the meditation. Because faith comes from your experience from practicing and from seeing how it functions. If you take a working thesis, right, and you say, okay, I want to see if my self-grasping is really causing this anxiety and depression and discontent and my anger and my attachments and my ignorance. Is this really? So I take it as a working thesis, like a science project. And then I start to spend time meditating on it and recognizing it. And then I have that experience of reduction of it. Oh, I saw that. And you know what? Because I'm more aware of it and I recognize it, I didn't grasp on it. Boy, I would have grasped on that. I would have said something different. I would have done something differently. And now I didn't grasp on it at that moment. And you have that feeling of freedom. You have that feeling of peace. That builds your faith from that experience of seeing it function to keep practicing. So let's find that nice, comfortable position. I like to have my hands rested comfortably on my lap. I actually put my right hand in the palm of my left hand and rest it in my lap, and I touch my thumbs together. I like to have my shoulders back, my heart open. I dip my chin. You can close your eyes, or one of the best ways to meditate is just have a little bit of light coming in run beneath your eyelids, just cracked open just a little bit. Helps you from mental wandering or sinking. And let's take 3 really good breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now let's close your mouth, breathe naturally, and relax. Relax the body. Relax your head, your ears, your neck, your shoulder, your chest. Relax your arms. Feel how heavy your hands feel in your lap. Your thighs, your calves, your feet. Feel the peace, the calmness of the body. And now let's bring your awareness out of your head. We don't want to spend any more time in our head. We want to now settle our mind, our awareness at the level of our heart. Let's start living at the level of our heart. And let's just watch the rise and fall of the natural rhythm of our breath at the level of your heart. And spend a little time to just feel. And we focus in this heart-centric experience, we become so much more at peace. And now let our awareness start to go deeper and deeper into that experience, observing our breath. And with a strong, clear, lucid, open mind, find one of those moments where you were extremely embarrassed. See the moment. Feel the moment. Re-experience that feeling of being embarrassed. And recognize that that's my I. That's my I. What is that I? This perceived I that was so embarrassed, that made me feel the way I felt. Feel those feelings. You wanted to go run and hide. You wanted to bury your head. You wanted to leave the situation, leave the world, never to appear again, right? It was that intense. Or a moment that you were that scared that put you into that fight or flight moment. That I. What is that I? Recognize it. Feel it. Hold it. Hold it tightly. Feel those feelings of embarrassment, of being scared, frightened. Now let's have the understanding, the realization that that feeling was me grasping, self-grasping on that I, that perceived I. I grasped on it. That's what created those feelings. Poor me. How could I ever face them again? I grasped and I held it. And if you don't think you grasped and held it tightly, how can you recall it now in this meditation? The reason you're recalling it, because it was such an intense, self-grasping moment. Feel the tightness. And now release it. Open it up and let it go. Recognize it as just self-grasping on an I that truly doesn't exist in the way that it appeared at that moment. And now let it go. And if you get a little taste of what that feeling is of letting it go, that's true freedom. That's freedom. That's peace. That's love. Now let's just spend the last few moments on just staying in that place of no more grasping on that moment. A feeling of allowing things to arise without the grasping and the cherishing of the moment, without holding tightly, telling the story, but just letting it go, letting it arise, allowing things to be the way they are. And get a taste of that freedom. It's blissful. And let's rest our mind in the last few moments of that blissful feeling. Of recognizing and allowing and letting go of that grasping. Spend a few moments there. So relax your concentration. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Why we take a look at the intensity of the moments of like in being embarrassed. We do that because it's easy to find our I. And we want to practice that meditation over and over and over again. Because what will happen is through that contemplation, you'll start to see your I through the more subtle times. Like, I'm right. I know. Don't tell me. I know the truth. Right? Or the moments of very subtle of just having a desire that I'm attached to. And I grasp onto that and I absorb into different objects because I'm grasping on it. Or you start catching you've gotten angry because I was driving on the highway and someone cut me off. And then I go to after I say all the things I say to them in the car, but they can't hear me. And thank God they couldn't hear the things I was saying about them. But I'm talking about them and cussing them out and having this road rage. And then I get into the office and then I'm at the water cooler and I'm telling the person all about my experience on my drive in because I grasped on it and now I'm telling the story through repetition. And then I call my kids in the afternoon during lunch and tell them what happened. And I keep telling the story over and over and over. And not only do I tell the story over and over again, but I also think about the story over and over again, like the time when I was embarrassed. And that's grasping on an I that doesn't exist. So now when I start to recognize it, and what's going to help me recognizing is that feeling of seeing it. Like if I'm at the water cooler and I'm telling the story and I think to myself, I'm self-grasping. Or when I say to somebody, yes, but this is the truth. I know the truth. And I realize that I'm actually grasping. When you start having those moments, you'll start getting the taste of what true freedom is. And before I get in the topic of freedom, I want to tell you a Buddhist story. And the story goes like this. There was this man who wanted to become a monk, wanted to become ordained. And he had been practicing for many years. And he wanted to join a monastery in Japan. So he said his goodbyes and sold his things and packed everything up, and off he went. And he to Japan, and he checked into a hotel that was close to the monastery, and he really felt that he wanted the monastic life. This is where he was heading and wanted, and felt comfortable with that, and thought he was ready, and checked into a really nice 5-star hotel, and thought this would be his last night with these comforts and luxuries, so why not? And after he had checked in and got settled in, and he decided he was going to go out and have a really nice dinner, a really nice meal that he's probably going to have for a very long time. And so he leaves the hotel and he starts walking down the street towards the restaurant, and he sees a couple monks walking towards him in the robes that he recognized from the same monastery. So as they become closer, he got very excited and went up to the monks and said, "Hey, I'm here to join the monastery, and I'm so excited, and I'm ready to be ordained, and I'm going to be there tomorrow morning, and um, I can't wait, and I'll be there bright and early." And the monks looked at him and smiled and kept walking. So he thought it was a little odd, but he went on with his way and went and had his really nice dinner, and he really enjoyed it. And of course, he had a little something to drink, a glass of wine. After dinner, he went back to his hotel, went to sleep, got up really nice and early, checked out, made his way, walked to the monastery very early in the morning, excited and motivated and thinking about all these wonderful things that are going to happen and all these wonderful things that he can do. And gets to the gate and no one's there. And so he starts knocking on the gate. No one's answering. He waits for maybe 10, 15 minutes, knocking. No one's there. So he figures, well, it's early. Maybe they're all together having breakfast. So he decides, you know what? I'll leave. I'll go get maybe a cup of coffee, have a little breakfast myself, and then I'll come back. So he leaves, has his coffee, his breakfast, comes back. Now it's early afternoon, and he's banging on the gate, and now he starts noticing some monks in the distance walking by. And he's hollering, hey, I'm here. I'm going to join. I'm here to be ordained. Open the gate. Come get me. And the monks aren't paying any attention to him. Matter of fact, they're not even looking. They just keep walking by. And he knows that they see him. And now he starts to get a little discontented. Right? Now it's like, what's going on? Right? Now he starts to have a little bit of doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Why are they ignoring me? Am I really ready for this? Now he gets angry, right? That grasping mind starts to turn into telling the story in his mind, what's wrong with these monks, and starts to really tightly hold to the story and gets angry and, hell with these guys, right? They're not going to answer. I'm out of here, right? I'm finished. I'm not waiting anymore. And he gets so angry, he leaves. Goes back in town, checks into another hotel. Just like the night before he leaves, starts to walk to go to a restaurant. And he notices the same monks that were there the night before. As a matter of fact, he even noticed that They were the same monks that walked by that saw him at the gate. So he runs up to them and says, "Hey, what happened? I got there in the morning. I told you I was coming. I was ready to be ordained. I knocked and I hollered. I know you saw me. Why wouldn't you open the gate?" And the one monk looked at him and said, "Why didn't you wait?" So how long, ask yourself, will you wait to open your gate? How long will you stay the course? How long will you keep practicing in meditation? Will you apply the effort? Will you stay the course? Will you stay on this path? Or will you develop a spiritual path and a journey? I don't know if you have one, but if you're not on a meditation practice, will you develop one? And how long will you wait and stay on that path? Because recognizing your self-grasping, for thousands and thousands of years, they've been teaching that is the path to true liberation. That is the path to everlasting happiness. That is the path to enlightenment. It's what keeps us bound to these other realms, especially the desire realm of form. And through that meditation that we did, if you will practice it, how long will you practice it for? How long will you wait for the results to appear, to arise? There are thousands of stories of enlightened people who became enlightened through compassion and love, through the understanding of self-grasping and self-cherishing. How long would you stay the course? But through this meditation, have the experience of letting it go one time, the experience of freedom. Because there's so much talk today of freedom and liberty and justice and patriotism and all this stuff that we think what creates our freedom. Money or wealth or reputation or relationships or love. And the list goes on and on. If I could have this, I'll feel free. If they didn't keep me from going over there, I would be free. If I could have that or that, right? We think externally these things create what's called freedom. But I have to tell you, when you get a true taste of what true freedom really is, and what true freedom really is the recognizing, reducing, and abandoning your self-grasping. When you get a taste of that, for just a moment in meditation, where it's extremely blissful, then hopefully you'll wait at that gate for as long as it takes. Hopefully you'll wait at the gate with a happy, peaceful, calm mind, knowing that whatever arises, the wait. I mean, if you think about the story, right? Did he still have attachments? Was he truly ready for the monastic life? Right? He's still going out to 5-star restaurants thinking that kind of food is going to bring happiness and comfort. He's still checking in the 5-star hotels, thinking that's what's bringing my happiness. None of those things external brings happiness or freedom or peace. None of those things. He obviously wasn't really ready, because if he was truly ready, he would have waited. Because he would have waited for whatever things arise, he would accept with patience, right? Patience, compassion, and love are the things that arise when we stop grasping on an I and self-cherishing that I. The true freedom, no matter where I am, I could be in a cage being tortured, that extreme, to in a location that I wish I was living somewhere else. Whatever that feeling, thinking that I'm not free, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're not grasping on those moments, you're truly free. There's so many wonderful, I don't know about wonderful, there's so many amazing stories about especially Buddhist monks being tortured. And during that time of torture, they had such compassion for the torturer because they knew, one, it was impermanent. They knew that the compassion for the torturer, that the result of their anger and the result of their torturing him or her was only going to create more negative karma for them and more negative suffering in their worlds and future lives. So they could have such compassion for the ones doing the torturing, but they knew that they were exalting their negative karma by being tortured, and that their future lives were going to be incredible, and that they're even maybe if they survived it, that this life would be even more credible. And there's so many of those stories out there. So they didn't grasp at that moment on an I or a body that doesn't truly exist in the way that it appears. And during that time of torture, they remained peaceful and happy, even through these extreme cases. So when you're sick, you can rest, you could still be happy and at peace by not grasping on your own illness. How long will you wait? Will you stay the course? Will you have patience, and will you practice? Self-grasping on an I and cherishing that I is the cause for all of our suffering now and in future lives. The more we recognize it, the more we can reduce it, the happier, the more peaceful, and the more freedom that we will find in this life and other lives to come. So please join me in the upcoming Zoom. We always do a Zoom call after these meditations, these discussions, to allow you to come in and talk, and we can share your experience through the meditation, and we can keep nurturing and guiding. I'm so glad that you joined us today, and I really hope that you have found something meaningful that you could put in practice, and I look forward to our next time we're together. Thank you.